All right, good afternoon, friends. How's it going, everybody? I'm Jake Thomas, bringing you another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. And today I've got someone really cool because I relate to her a lot. I look up to her a lot for her bravery and what she's done in the space of addiction and recovery, and especially sharing her own vulnerability is something that I really admire and also applaud and cherish her for doing that. Miss Karen Thomson is coming from South Africa by way of Palm Springs, California, and is just a big advocate in the space of addiction and understanding the abuse of the mind and how to recover and how to empower rather than to be taken control of and controlled by things from the outside world. And she does that through how she eats, how she lives, how she works out, and how she promotes her brand and her livelihood. What is it, Karen? It's to be healthy and sexy. I forget the words, but it's
To
really
make
cool.
health sexy and fun.
To make health sexy and fun. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, right?
Without
You do a good job of that, Jake.
I try. I'd like to think so, but
Yeah.
I think those are pretty good words I like to be associated with too.
Perfect.
So 2014, the business begins, the brand starts. What was the reason for the sugar-free revolution? For people that don't know about it, to give them some context, why did you feel compelled? Why did you feel the need? You could have selfishly found your own cure, gone through your recovery program of 9 months at 24 years old, having dealt with powder, having dealt with alcohol. What made you have to say, you know what, it can't just be for me, it's got to be for some other people too?
I've never ever even considered that question. I don't think it's ever I've ever thought like not to share stuff that helps me with other people. I think I grew up in a household where, my grandfather was Christian Barnard. He did the first heart transplant. My gran was the lady that sewed the heart valve. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a professor. Like my whole life was about learning how to serve others, be of service through education and empowerment. And I think a big thing that came through in my family was this, like, there's so much suffering in the world from chronic disease. Like, how can we stop that? How can we help people suffer less than they need to, right? And we are living in a society where chronic disease is crippling us, and addiction being one of the greatest ones, which to me is a very self-imposed jail that we create for ourselves. And so, as you mentioned, I first found freedom from alcohol and drugs in 2004. And then I realized I was switching my addiction to something else. And it was this legal substance called, I don't want to just call it sugar because that simplifies it too much. It's definitely the combination of sugar, salt, sugar, and fat that is chemically engineered to make us addicted and wanting to eat more because it stimulates this dopamine response that we become addicted to. It's about chasing dopamine.
Yep.
And so my ex-husband and I had these psychiatric facilities, addiction treatment care facilities in South Africa. It was the largest continuum of care, and we did phenomenal work there. And we started Professor Tim Noakes. I don't know if you know who he is. Very well-known South African sports scientist, A1 rated scientist, phenomenal man. Him and I started one of the world's first inpatient sugar and carb addiction programs after he found the low-carb way of life when he was diagnosed as a diabetic, despite running marathons. He wrote a book called The Law of Running, and a whole chapter on it was carb loading. Like, he created this concept of how important it is to carb load, and then he ends up becoming diabetic, despite following all the right advice. And so my mom had been a professional sports person. She was a world champion water skier at the age of 14, and Prof. Noakes was like a celebrated runner. And so they had kind of like moved in the same circles. And one day I saw Prof. Noakes on a TV show in South Africa called Carte Blanche, and he was talking about his journey. And he said that sugar, he used the word sugar and addiction in the same sentence. I was like, oh my God, like, this is it. Like, sugar is an addictive substance. I can see how it is in my own life. I can see the clients coming into the rehab. They come in like day one, and they're like thin and like malnourished and everything. And then they get clean and they find like this new way of life. And then they come back a year later to celebrate their 1 year sobriety or being in recovery, and they have literally tripled in size
Oof. Yep.
because they've
Yep.
switched their addiction. And you see these addicts and alcoholics coming in and heading straight for the vending machine because they still
Yep.
are looking for this external substance.
Yep.
And so the day that I heard Prof Noakes on Carte Blanche, I was like, hey, I said to my mom, I was like, hey, can you get me a meeting with Prof Noakes? Like, I'd love to connect with him. And he worked at the University of Cape Town at that time in a department called the Sports Science Institute. And it's a huge department. It's like, imagine calling
Yep.
any university, just calling the number that's listed. So she just looked up the number for the Sports Science Institute and she called it. And Prof Noakes answered the phone. Now, this is like unheard of. And so I honestly believe that this was like some higher power thing guiding this like relationship for us to work together. And so we started on this journey of starting this inpatient program for sugar and carb addicts. Was super successful, became an outpatient program, then an online program. And then from there, I got asked to write a book called Sugar Free 8 Weeks to Freedom from Sugar and Carb Addiction. It was published in South Africa and the UK, did incredibly well. And actually, my publisher just asked me to update it, and it's going to be republished worldwide, January 2025. But anyway, I don't want to like fuck my notifications. I'm sorry. Anyway, so during that time as well, Prof Noakes started getting like all this backlash, right, from the dietitians and the medical community saying that prescribing a low carb diet was dangerous. Like, it was detrimental to people's health. It was going to cause people to die.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that crazy? Like, in 2015, these people are saying in 2015 that we are going to suffer greatly if we focus on eating real food as close to its natural state as possible. Like, don't do that. Like, we should start our day with cereal, and then we should have like a whole grain bread and some salad with some awful vegetable oil dressing on it, or and it was just mind blowing. It was mind boggling to me, and I saw Prof going through this, and it was devastating. And so I decided that I was going to organize a conference to support him in this endeavor, and I organized. It was initially called the what was it called? The low
LCHF
carb.
or the LCHF, right?
Yeah, it was something like low carb health. I don't know. Anyway, we got a big sponsor. We got a big insurance company as a sponsor, and it was ultimately known as the Old Mutual Health Convention. And so we got like Steve Finney, Eric Westman, Gary Taubes, Jason Fung, like these incredible speakers.
Good authors.
They had never, Jake, they had never been in the same place together in the world. Like, they'd communicated, but they'd been siloed everywhere.
And sure.
And it was the first time that they came together. So that was super, super fun. I completely like just went off on a tangent.
Yeah,
I don't even remember what your
selflessness, your origins of selflessness and the why, of finding the need to get it out, not just for yourself, but and kind of just piggybacking on what you're saying, Karen. Like, I tell people, anyone that's in a space of self-actualization or improvement or personal growth, development of any kind, recovery, it is innately part of that process to give it away, to try to give it away, to say like, oh my God, I can't believe I found this, Karen, you got to try this. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a similar parallel to being an addict or an abuser. I always wanted to do drugs with my friends, or I always wanted my friends to do drugs with me. In the sense, like, I didn't want to just party alone. I didn't want to just drink alone. I always wanted to share and extend the party, extend the fun as best I could. And to me, now finding this vitality, or just a new breath of life within life, it's like, I just want other people to feel it too, selfishly. I want you to feel what I'm feeling, to understand what I've come to find to be profitable and fruitful. And so that's why I kind of challenge you with that question of like, what made you feel the need to do that? And I think it's kind of a trick question in the sense that, like, there's no feeling of need. It just kind of comes with the territory.
Right. And I think one of the biggest things if you do work the 12-step program, which I'm a huge proponent of, and, that's what got me clean and allowed me to really like, I still work it. It allows me to just work on myself and look at my part of situations and how I can show up for myself and others in a bigger way. And one of the biggest cornerstones of that program is this concept of service. And we can only keep what we have by giving it away. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer in that. Like, I can only keep what I have by giving it away. And so that's just ingrained in me in every part of my being. And so I think you operate in the same way.
Yeah, it took me finding that, for me, a lot of it was part of identity. When I was in the military is something that I didn't realize it at the time, but it gave me such an identity. It gave me the mission, it gave me clarity of purpose. And I think finding this path is what gave me a new identity in the time between military separation and kind of getting my feet back under me was this feeling of loss, feeling of misplacement, displacement, and a lack of purpose and an identity. And so I was looking everywhere I could find it. And a lot of times that meant through abuse of self, through, just not feeling proper, not feeling deserving, not feeling right, not feeling honest. And so I was trying to hide, I was trying to succumb and deal with the world in a way that felt good at the time. Obviously it was just simple pleasuring to try to numb through the pain, but it's not being happy. It's not feeling wholesome. And so to try to fill that void or lack of wholesomeness was substance, material things, pleasurable company, anything and everything that could feel something like that. And then once I started to let go of that and embrace this me, the honest me, I began to see like, wow, this is what the missing piece was. This is why I couldn't sleep. It wasn't because I wasn't happy or I was chasing something. It's because I didn't have this. I didn't have this feeling of myself, of wholesomeness, of honesty, of belief, of self-love, for a better way to say it. And so trying to replace that with other things is it's a hamster wheel to nowhere. And once you finally start to do that, yeah, it's the more you give it away, seemingly, the more you receive from that.
Yeah.
Even that's kind of colloquial, but it's very much the truth. It's very much the truth. And I think that's why I keep it's definitely why I keep doing what I'm doing, because if I've gotten this far in such a short amount of time to be able to feel the way that I do, I think like, God, imagine what this is going to be like in 5, 10, 15, a lifetime worth of selflessness, so to speak.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
Wait, have you been married?
No, I'm a single, no dependents.
Okay, wow, you're a catch.
Yeah. If I wasn't blushing before, I'm blushing now.
You have gone kind of red.
Yeah, that's definitely the blush. Thanks. No, single,
Sorry.
no dependents. Yeah, no, that's all good. It's all good. I'm just now on the spotlight now. You weren't prepared for the first question. I wasn't prepared for that one. So fair play.
Perfect.
What was I love you saying Prof Noakes, by the way. Like that's got to be pretty cool to know Tim Noakes like that casually. It's Prof Noakes, no big deal. To the rest of the world who doesn't know who Professor Tim Noakes is, you definitely want to take a look. Most notably, like what Karen touched on, a lot of his workings in ketogenics and understanding the lifestyle, low carb living. In 2014, 2015, there's a documentary, I can't remember the name of it, where a lot of legislation that he was on the forefront of for in South Africa that was, I want to say it was either a changing of foods possibly in schools. I can't remember exactly. I just remember watching the documentary, but he was on the front foot of trying to pass some new legislation there to either promote a change, I think, in diets within schools possibly, or some type of medical service regarding what was permissible towards nutrition, but I can't remember now. I'm kind of rambling on it. But one of my favorite projects with Tim Noakes was with Louis Pugh, the swim in the Arctic.
That was awesome. Did you see that documentary?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like to think I swim in cold water and do decently at it, but like that's a whole nother level.
That's next level. That makes everyone else who's like taking 2 minutes in the little ice bath just seem ridiculous.
Watching him train and warm up. Yeah, watching him train.
You're not like having Prof Noakes like shower you down with hot water on the boat that you're on because you're literally about to die.
Yeah, and having all the data tracking and the biometrics that they were running live with him on the shark fin on his back and all that, and how he could barely talk and just I thought that was incredible.
And the polar bears everywhere. I mean, that was next level. Even Wim Hof has nothing on him.
No, I was jaw dropped watching that, but at the same time being like, that is so cool. Like human beings are amazing. Like we are amazing. And coming back to addiction, thinking about now about how much we prioritize how we nourish ourselves physically and spiritually, with physical and spiritual nutrition, I like to say. how much we do that now, and how, life only seems to get more challenging, more difficult. There's always gonna be something else. Unfortunately, it's just the way things go. Obviously, our preparedness for that is what we can determine. The fortunateness of events, or the unfortunateness of events, and the way they come, whether we choose to see them as obstacles or as necessities, is perception. But our preparedness in dealing with those things is absolutely something we can do about. And I think back to 20s and times during addiction and abuse, and thinking like, God, I was fueled on just junk and liquid courage and cigarettes and an occasional meal, per day, because I wouldn't eat sometimes for a few days, like you wrote about also.
Yeah.
And to think like, God, we were just still running hot. Like the body was still able to do it, and to think about now, God, I smelled someone smoking a cigarette the other day when I was running, and I almost wanted to pass out or vomit. I was like, first off, I was taking a gas and thinking like, God, people still smoke. Like I was like, huh, how cool.
It's coming back though.
I mean, it's funny to think that it even left. You know what I mean? But I was literally like, oh, how nostalgic, to smoking a cig, cool, man. But it smelled terrible. But it was weird, and to think like we were able to live on what we were eating and what we were consuming, what we were doing, and now it's like I'm so detailed with meticulous attention and intention and gratitude and purposefulness about what I eat and how I'm eating and how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And even with all that, life can still be a test. People think like, oh, Jake, you just sit there and you read a lot and you this and that, and you have the habits and your little practice and and you must be just like sitting like a Buddha on a globe all the time. No, like absolutely not. The reality is life is going to be what it is, but again, it's just the preparedness for it all that seems to aid. But it's really the preparedness of feeling. It's the content, the wholesomeness, again, talking about from earlier, that was not there. And I would damn sure take this challenge as opposed to being in the blinded, obliviousness that we used to be in.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. Life's fucking hard. Like there's nothing easy about life. And I know that I make my life harder even than sometimes it has to be, because I am one of those people that has to like hit my own head, and I have to learn for myself. There are people who can learn through others. They say those are the wise people. And then there are people who have to learn for themselves, and those are the non-wise. I don't know how the saying goes. I'm that one. I'm the one who has to make the mistake and feel it for myself. I don't just learn through other people's mistakes. I have to make them. But I just think that on this quest, and it's become so prevalent in society now, for these quick fixes and this instant gratification, and this like, let's just take semaglutide and lose weight, and or like take appetite suppressants and like whatever, right? We're circumventing this natural process that we really need to appreciate and respect something. And that's called hard work. That's called putting in the effort. That's called appreciating the result, right? And our world's not functioning according to that anymore. And so I think it's so important for us to constantly expose ourselves to really difficult things over and over again, because that's where the reward sits. Getting into recovery from addiction was the hardest thing I've done. And I do it every single day of my life. Yeah, right? I don't just like sit around and like, oh no, like I have to be aware of this and anything. I chase dopamine. Like I went on, okay, here's a funny story. So I went to Arizona this past weekend for an event with Greg Glassman, like from CrossFit. Nice. And it was phenomenal. And I was like, okay, I haven't tried online dating for about a year, and maybe I should give it another go. And maybe the guys in Arizona are nicer than the guys in California, because they really suck. The guys in California suck. Anyway, I was like going through this dating app and like chatting to people, and I was like, I don't like these things. Like I claim I want safety, security, stability, but you know what I want? Honestly. I want to elope to Vegas, and then I want to get married at Elvis's chapel, and then I want to annul the wedding the next day. Like, I am not looking for a relationship. I am chasing another addiction, like something that will make me forget about like what I where I am right now, like the difficulties that I need to face, like something that will make me
Escape.
feel something different to
Escape.
what I'm wanting to feel. Anyway, I hope that
Yeah,
makes sense.
the escape is
Yeah.
the escapism. I think escapism is the bane of modern society, because everything about what we've not. I mean, we had to grow up and evolve into it, so to speak. But the way the Gen Z or forward from that is born into it, to where it's normalized, and that's just the way it is. To where, I actually had a dating app idea for a grad school project, um, because I was in the same place, like sick of what I was seeing online, because everything that I saw, and I went through all the major ones, I went through some of the back channel ones, and even some of the elite ones, to try to compare and run some customer analysis and consumer insights and say, like, okay, what was right, what was good. I would say 90 plus percent, not would say, for sure, statistically, over thousands and thousands of profiles looked at, 90 plus percent of photos were doctored or altered in some way, without a doubt. More than 90%. Filters were applied, obvious retouchings to the face, particularly with wrinkles and fine lining. And this is men and women. This is irrespective of sex. What people,
Josh.
oh yeah,
Seriously?
oh yeah, what people were wearing to hide idiosyncrasies or to hide flaws, um, shameful aspects of themselves, how they would stand, how they would sit, just the way the pictures were illustrated to cast is absolutely best. Please, hope you like me enough. I'm begging.
Yeah, that's exactly
Kind
it.
of a disposition. That's the truth, as opposed to, like my idea for the app was, okay, let's have everybody be swimsuits or underwear only, pretty much like modeling portfolio shots, headshots, no makeup allowed, faces, no smiling, just blank, and 5 photos, full front, full back, profile left and right, and bust up.
Chick, that sounds
Uh,
like the worst idea I've ever heard.
totally. And a lot of people thought it was terrible. And I said, I think it's the only way it's going to ever have people be honest with who they are. And then I took it even a step further and said, you have to attach a W-2 or a 1099 or show some type of income. You have to have education to show. You have to show where you live, to where everything was about honesty, in the sense that, okay, I'm about to be 40. I make no money. Here's the proof of that. I live at home with relatives. Here's the proof of that. But I have some really cool hobbies, and I'm really smart. Hopefully there's somebody out there for me. Or I'm really out of shape. I make a lot of money. Da 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 da. Or I'm this person and I fly business everywhere, but no one pays for it, or I don't pay for it ever. Weird. I have all these cool things, but no one, I don't pay for it. Someone else does. Just to put that honesty out there, in the sense that I love this guy. He's 50, 150 pounds overweight, lives with his mother, but he's a fucking rocket scientist. And I think it's so cool. Sweet. That's my man, or like, she's my girl and she's totally my sugar baby. And I fly her everywhere, Maldives, business, and Dubai, and it's fine. But I'm cool with it, and so is she, and we're honest about it, as opposed to, yeah, so you want to tell me where you got all those pictures from? Because I know yoga retreats don't pay business class to the Maldives, And so, yeah, anyway, the app never came from more than an idea. I tried to get it to some seed rounds, but people are like, dude, this is too radical. And anyway, it was just about honesty, because now I think the younger generation comes into this world and they're already using these filters and doctoring photos and altering themselves, in the sense that I don't feel good enough as me. I don't feel worthy enough to attract a mate as I am. So I need to use, oh my God, you don't use filters? You don't like touch up your face at all? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're never going to get into the algorithm. You're never going to be attractive enough for someone that you're seeking out. That sucks. And that's one thing for us to have grown into that at our ages and be like, all right, maybe that's just kind of the way it's turned into. But for someone that's still in their teens or an adolescent, that's like putting photos up, and before she can even think or he can even say, yeah, this is me just out at the ballpark with the boys playing baseball, like, there's got to be some type of doctoring or altering to an image in order to feel better than. And I think that's where we've gone to. And that's what I say about escapism, in the sense that, yeah, you want to get high? Perfect. We'll get it delivered to you. God, when I moved to Manhattan, oh my God, I was in heaven, because now it's like, you literally, Make the call. Yeah, we'll be there in 20 minutes. Just say the cross streets. Wow, this is amazing. Drugs delivered, girls delivered, food delivered, anything you want delivered. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to go get it. You don't have to kill for it. You don't have to make it happen other than just be able to pay the money and boom, it's delivered to you on the spot. We've lost and continue to lose that innate hunter's prowess, that makes us feel worthy of the kill, whether it's in a relationship, and obviously I don't mean to kill, but courtship even, like where the
Yeah.
fuck has that gone? And that's where I
I don't
kind of
know.
derailed from the dating app sense, and had another kind of idea on top of this dating app, to where if we sent messages to each other, I wanted it to be in the form of like a carrier pigeon. So the messages would never be immediately received. There would be this randomized sequence of timing for when the messages would be received. So let's say I send you a message today once we match. If I sent you a message, I don't know when you would receive it. It might be that instant. It might not be for like 10 days, but it would be to purposefully create tension and promiscuous, not promiscuous, but, mysticism and a little bit of spontaneity to this arranged situation of courtship, because I think that's what's a big part that's missing, because people are trying to not be here, because we're not happy. We don't feel good. We're scared. We're tired. We're worn down. We don't understand why. Yet everything that's advertised on TV, mainstream media, and otherwise is telling us, oh, just eat these things, go to these places, drink this medicine, wake up and just recalibrate the same way all over again, see how you feel.
It's crazy.
It's life. But
I think it's very different in the US as well compared to other countries, right? Like I remember when we moved here 7 years ago, and we traveled here a lot before, but I have always been shocked at the amount of fast food drive-throughs. Like I don't think it's prevalent like this in any other country. Like you do not have to get out of your car here to get anything. And now with like Instacart and Uber Eats, and like you literally don't have to get off your couch to get anything. And and it just feeds into that whole like instant gratification, just everything, and pretending that you have this great life from your sofa while you're feeling miserable and alone. And we're bombarded with social media. Like I go into Instagram and I'm like, oh my god, I'm such a loser, my life sucks, like I've achieved nothing, I'm not good enough. Like I start thinking that, and then I'm like, oh my god, what is wrong with me? Seriously, like this is ridiculous. Like I'm the hardest worker I know. I've had it's March. I've had two super successful events. I have a book that's going to be reissued like in January. Like this is work I've put in. I produced a documentary on one of the events that we had. Like, and it's like we're midway through March. Like, and then I look at like, and I'm like, I've never had the ability to really, and I think that this is the era that we come from. How old are you?
about to be 40,
Oh,
39.
you're a baby. Jeez, my God, you're like a child. Anyway, so it's just like it was like a different way of being raised, and now I look at the kids and they're and I'm generalizing because there are exceptions to each rule, but it's just like demanding. No one works for anything anymore. Like this whole vibe of like everyone's a winner. No, everyone is not a winner. Honestly, like if you play badly, it's not okay. Like go practice and do better. And like put the effort in. Like it's actually not okay to be that bad and to let your entire team down. Like that sucks.
Here's your
You
15th
fail at a
place
test.
medal.
Whose fault's that? It's not okay to fail at a test. Go study harder. I don't know. Like I have such a problem with like everyone's a winner. Like no, not everyone's a winner. Most people
says
suck.
says says the person living in California.
What do you mean? Oh, I know, right? I'm like,
Where
I'm
you're in the
counting the
haven of
moments till I can leave.
you're in the haven of 15th place medal. Here's your ribbon for 15th place. Good job.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, 15th place sucks. First place is the only one that matters.
I think so. My mother's from Mexico, and I spent a lot of time there. Lived there for several years, back and forth, and can definitely relate to kind of the phenomena that comes with the United States. And that everything is on the same keel, and that everyone has the same fairness and deserving of the right, and this and that. But yeah, it's turned our competitive nature sour. To where as a an immigrant, you learn to survive. You learn about self-reliance, independence, autonomy, industriousness, excuse me. Um, you just realize that you're able to do things in more fashions than other people are. You know, I think here in the States, because of how much freedom there is, people are able to choose not to do anything, choose comfort, are able to choose comfort willfully, and often do, more often than not, because discomfort is inconvenient, it's uncomfortable. So having to learn a new language, having to navigate a new system of measurement, even, you know, like, and adjust and tell time by 12 hours instead of 24. Ugh, like if the US, my God, if we could please, you know, I think there's 4 countries on the planet that use the imperial system, the United States being one of them. 4 of the 200 plus recognized by the United Nations, 4 of them, I believe, use the imperial system of measurement. How
It's crazy.
fucking stupid that is. So I'm a huge advocate to change from the US's imperial units of measure to metric. Same for time, 24
I
hours.
agree. I have military
AM,
time on my phone.
yeah, AM and PM. And people say the same. People say the same to me. You know, they're like, "Oh, Jake, it's because you were in the military. It's military time." I'm like, "It's 24-hour time, and it's how the fucking world tells time." I hate to tell you that. But you know, that's, people wonder why American tourists are so reprimanded and belittled and have, you know, such disdain from host nations. Well, let me tell you why. Because we land on the plane, we can't get out of the seats because we're too heavy. We can't fit into the cars because we're too large. We don't know how to tell time because we land and it's 16:10, and I go, "Well, what time does that mean? I don't know what it means." And they go, "Welcome to Cape Town. The time is 16:45. The temperature is 12 degrees." What time is that? And to 12, I don't understand. And now we're speaking Afrikaans. I don't speak the language. I don't know the origin of the language. I know nothing. I'm going to demand that you translate for me. Oh shit! And you drive on the wrong side of the street, and the wheel is on the wrong side of the car. This is fucked. So please take my baggage and cater to me immediately, because I'm very much built for speed and efficiency. And if you don't understand that, I'm going to really be irritable towards you. But don't you dare be irritable towards me. That's an American tourist. And we wonder why everywhere we go, we're not so much appreciated being there. And it comes down to me about that, again, escapism. And it's funny to hear, you know, we were talking about our mutual friend, Steve Uriah, before the call. Steve and I were talking a week ago, and he was talking about changes physically and you know, body recomposition, and how it is the greatest form of delayed gratification you can ever have.
And self-respect.
Truly, absolutely, self-respect, top of the list. You know, like, what's it worth to you? What are you willing to do to have that, to attain it, to maintain it? Ooh, even better.
Yeah.
What are you willing to do? And for most people, it's not much. It's what I'm willing to not do, in the form of fuck-its, you know, and say, I don't care. So lack of self-respect. But yeah, the greatest delayed gratification of anything is body recomposition. But yeah, why would I do that, Jake, if I can just take a little bit of Ozempic and nobody's going to know the difference? And like, voila, I'm going to change everything about me, and I'm never going to have to work for it or earn for it. And so our kids, our youth that were born into this world, like you said, I am just a 39-year-old baby, and my ignorance to so many things, you know, I don't know. And, but now, because I at least got to evolve through the use of a rotary phone and Netscape and LimeWire and all the fun stuff that we got to do, how would you feel if all you knew was instant and immediate and there, and that there was no ignorance in time, that everything was fast and rapid and sure? I don't want to apply for a job. Why should I have to go to school? I can make more money without a degree. Why should I have to go sit and hammer rocks for 8 hours? I can trade online for nothing, and I can do that with my Uggs on and my underwear in the basement. Why should I have to wait? Why should I have to apply? These processes that we learned as being the way, to where now this entire new generation and young crop sees them as arbitrary and foreign and taboo. And so I think the disconnect is between us aging, but also between them being that much different from what we are now too.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard. I look at I've got two boys, they're 15 and 17. And I'm like, I do not envy them growing up. I
Mm.
don't. You know, they're growing up in a time where you can be anything. Like literally, you can be any gender, you can be any identity, like you can be anything. Like the kids are so freaking confused. And you don't have to work for anything. Like anything can be achieved, whether it's through plastic surgery or pills or you know, like a quick fix, like nothing. And you're accepted just exactly as you are. So you can be an asshole and people have to cater towards that. And I just it's just I mean, I literally, Jake, I'm looking at buying property in Costa Rica right now because I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how much longer I can actually sit here and take this. And I'm so grateful to be in the US. Don't get me wrong, but I worked really hard to get here. And I paid a lot of money in getting my green card and my visas and earning money and, you know, like paying my taxes. Like I've worked incredibly hard for the life that I have. And nothing has come easy. Like if you look at my Instagram, you're like, oh my God, she has such a fun life. She just dances around all the time, like minimally clothed. Do you know what I mean? Like going to concerts and stuff. Like that
That's
literally is
pretty. It's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate.
look, I mean, those are like the little moments
Yeah.
in time that that we post online. But the truth is like waking up at 5 a.m., starting to work, finishing my day at like 9 p.m., taking time off to go to the gym in between, and you know, just like desperately like figuring out like what's next, how am I going to do this, like how am I going to earn money, how am I going to survive.
Yeah.
I'm a single mom with two kids and living in a state where the taxes are astronomical and I can't even afford to survive anymore. And um, yeah, anyway, so I think the point is that life is hard, right? And with this instant gratification and the way social media and AI and stuff is moving, there's this picture that it shouldn't be like that. And so I think there's this huge disconnect from how people are actually feeling and perceiving to what the reality is. And I would love to just, you know, like bridge that gap a little bit more. And that life is hard and it takes a lot of practice and training and doing hard things every single day to get to a point of even feeling a little bit like you are self-actualized or content with who you are. Because we as human beings are never going to feel good enough unless we work hard for it,
Yeah.
unless we really believe that we have achieved it deeply. And you know, and that's one of the greatest, that's why I do love hard work, and that's why I do like doing difficult things, because I value it. And I only really appreciate and respect things that I value. And so I can only really appreciate and respect myself if I value myself, and I can only value myself by hard work.
Yep. So I would say, putting on the events like you do, that's hard work. That's a lot of trust. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of belief. But also to have I don't want to say command, but the faith of the people around you to do it. They've obviously seen value in what you do and the reason to get around you and to gather with you. What brought you to that head as far as okay, I seem to have gotten myself under some sense of decent control. I'm feeling better. Life is coming to me now. I'm proactive instead of reactive. I'm with flow instead of against flow. What was the step that said, hey, I want to do this on a bigger scale. I want to bring people together, whether it was through the CrossFit Summit like you had recently in Austin, the other events that you've held, like you said, already twice this year. What got you there and what keeps you there, and what's next on the horizon?
It's doing like really scary things. It's stepping outside of my comfort zone. It's not being complacent. It's not sitting back and just being like, okay, that was cool. Like I've achieved that. It's like making and investing in hard things every single day. Like I can't tell you, like I have been waking up at 2 a.m., like just petrified, like so scared, because I am stepping into a different stage of my life where I want to expand and I want to grow, but that means I have to do things differently. And so I don't have this like knowledge of what it's going to turn out like as. And so stepping into the space of being an entrepreneur and launching my own programs again and launching my own companies again and having
Yeah.
nothing or no one to fall back on. And I think 2 months worth of money in my bank account to survive for me and my kids. I cry every single day. Like I am so scared. But I can tell you when I do have that success or when I do fail and I try again, that's what builds me. That's what sustains
Yeah,
me. And that's what
yeah,
pushes me to the next level of where I want to be. Like sitting back and just keeping going and sitting and be like, oh, my life sucks. Like, I wish I got a promotion or whatever, whatever. It's like, it's never going to take me to this place where I want to be. And I want to live a life of passion and purpose.
mm,
And that takes taking huge risks
yeah,
constantly.
yeah.
And so that's where I am right now, and I'm really scared.
You know, fear. Thank you, first off. It's for sharing your vulnerability. It's probably one of the, I think it's one of the greatest gifts you can give anyone is for them to feel comfortable enough to be honest.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. First off, it's awesome to be in the realm of that kind of vulnerability. Fear is a beautiful thing. Fear is something that keeps you alive, it keeps you awake, it keeps you warm when you're cold. It keeps you knowing you're not dead. And being afraid is a good thing because without fear, there is no courage.
Yeah.
Courage can only come in the face of fear. You know, I define courage by being afraid, acknowledging the fear, and moving forward in spite of it.
Yeah, doing it anyway.
Yeah, doing it anyway, you know? And yeah, there is no courage without fear. So it sounds like, yeah, you might be afraid, but there's a shit ton of courage going around with that too. You know, because there's continued action. There's not succumbing to the fear. There's not rolling over and saying, all right, well, single mom, I'm gonna ditch the boys too, and I'm going rogue and figure it out. Nah. You look up, you get afraid. 2 o'clock in the morning, you feel what I call the breath of the wolf on the back of your neck, especially as an entrepreneur. You know, without the breath of the wolf, you don't continue the stride. It's the breath of the wolf on the back of the neck that makes you keep running.
Yeah.
You know,
It
because
makes you
without
try
it,
things.
without it, you'll slow down and say, I'm good. I'll get complacent. I'll get comfortable. Nah.
Yeah. And I was asking myself the other day, I mean, this conversation is really going all over the show. I apologize for that. But
No, it's
I
perfect.
generally just like speak what's on my mind at the time. I was like,
Perfect.
why didn't I just marry a rich guy? Like, why don't I just
Oh,
find
perfect. There, now
why
we're
don't I
getting to a really good spot. Excellent. Carry on.
why don't listen? I'm like the epitome of your dating app right now, where I'm literally just I've been sick in bed. I was on this long trip to Arizona. I got home so late last night, went to McDonald's, slept like 3 hours, woke up. I feel like shit today. And you can see it. Like I'm your unfiltered dating app profile right now. So this is like the
Perfect.
first case in your
Perfect.
dating app.
Perfect. Well, I would swipe and then send a message and hope that it got there within at least 30 days. I don't know, some type of reasonable time.
Oh my god, that's hysterical. Wait, what was the actual point of what I was trying to say to you?
You were talking about, you know, fear and waking up, or I'd finished about fear and talking about that, and you were thinking about, you know, the waking up each day and still having to carry on and going forward in spite of it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that, and you're right. That's courage. That is courage to show up and do difficult things. And I think, my life hasn't been easy. It really, really hasn't. From the age of 4, I've experienced a ton of trauma and neglect and abandonment. And I think what makes a really, truly beautiful person, and this is what makes me beautiful as well, is that despite the heartache, despite the heartbreak, despite the rejection, the abandonment, just the shame, the sadness, the loss, I can still show up and love deeply. I can still show you my heart.
Most people can't.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's good. And you were talking about, you know, I could have just married a rich guy. That was the tangent.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think again, it's consciously seeking suffering for personal growth, whether
Yeah.
you mean to or it just happens. It's kind of the road to self mastery is paved in fucking suffering, you know. And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean about being like a masochist and I have to saw my arms
No.
constantly. No, but just like you said, like to be surrounded by fear and having to enact courage constantly, that's fucking living, man. Like that's
Yeah.
living, you know.
Yeah.
And those are two grateful kids that know that. that see that,
Yeah.
that are around that, that are motivated by that, driven by that. I came from a single mother, saw the same. You know, I
Oh.
still see the same, still see the same drive and care and concern and nurturing. You know, the understanding of what it was to be at ends meet and having to fly my brother and I to see her and having rolls of quarters for us to be able to make calls on the flights and our packs of batteries to travel with because we traveled as
Oh.
unaccompanied minors at like 8 and 11 years old or 6 and 9. I forget. We were really young. So we were like these two little kids going around the airport, you know, holding hands and just with our batteries, our bags full of batteries and quarters to make phone calls with. But
Oh.
that's what it took, you know. But like that's something that I admire now, and I say that in the sense that I can't relate to your fear in that sense as a mother. I'm not there. I never will be there, obviously, maternally. But to be able to look back, and my mother was here just a little while ago before we got on the call. Yeah, that's man, that's fucking living in fear. Like that's a master of fear, or maybe it's not a master of fear, but it's an embracer of courage. And I
Yeah.
think that's the cool thing. So like, yeah, again, it might be tough, but it's a life full of courage too. It's pretty damn cool. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, it could be fine and without fear, and you could just marry up. That's an easy situation filler. And I definitely got a laugh out of that when you said that because it's true. And I used to kind of mock with friends of mine, like girlfriends. I would say that single friends, like, hey, you can always just quit right now and marry up. You know what I mean? Like you've always got that to fall back on. Like, hey, go for broke, try your hand at everything, and if it doesn't work out, you still got like just fall back and get taken care of. Like it's a pretty good deal. Now it's very lowly maybe to think and simple minded, but it's true, you know. And as opposed to, I don't think the street would work the same way for me. To think like, yeah, I'll just marry up, you know, and she'll love me, and it's not the same. But
Yeah, you don't have that option. Well, you would in my area. I live in an area where there are a lot of like wealthy divorcees for
oh,
sure.
outstanding, outstanding. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll have to switch. The taxes here are very favorable, and obviously the divorcees there are plentiful. So who knows? Maybe we'll have to do a swap for a few weeks and see how it works
That sounds like a plan.
out. So you talked about, you know, you talk about hard things, uncomfortable things. Um, Knowing Dave Castro in the CrossFit world the way you do, clearly you've got a big interest with that and something that you found to be a big part of your life. Where did that come in, and why
What,
and
CrossFit?
how? Yeah, just in general, like your training, your physical training. You know, tell us about where that fit in and why it's so sacred to you.
Well, I've been active my whole life. I think, growing up in South Africa, like being outside, and I grew up, I don't think I wore shoes until I was like 12.
You and
We
Jimmy
grew up on the
Buffett.
farm. Huh?
You and Jimmy Buffett, the late Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so, I think physical activity was just part of life. Like it was, we played outside, we played with sticks, we played with the animals. Like it was just, I was always super active. And then in the schools in South Africa from a very young age, you have to do sport. It's not even an option. Like you have to do at least three sports, like not just one
Mm.
occasionally, like all the time. So we all had to swim. It was part of school. Play netball. I played rugby with the boys. We played cricket, like athletics, everything. Like that's just what you did. And so I've always been very active. And then I got into horse riding when I was about 2 years old. No one in my family rode, but I was just obsessed with it. So did that and competed a little bit, like doing show jumping and stuff.
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
And then I used to, and then in high school, I played water polo and I was pretty good at it. And I got
Nice.
glandular fever. Well, I stopped. I stopped playing all sports. I stopped horse
Ah,
riding. I stopped doing everything. And I really, honestly, like that's where my decline in addiction into like real substance addiction started. It was like
yeah.
when I lost that purpose and passion and that team and that like sense of being driven by a common purpose. And I kind of started losing my way there a bit. But so just stayed active. And during my modeling days, obviously, like not much energy for exercise because the diet pulls and the lack of eating makes it really hard to kind of move because you're just exhausted. And so, when I got into recovery, I started doing exercise again. And my brother was super into CrossFit. Like he was living in the UK, he was like obsessed with it. And so when he came back to Cape Town and I was living there and I had my two kids, he took me to his CrossFit gym for an on-ramp. And I hated it. I was like, this is insane. Like, this is awful. I hate the people. The intensity
Yeah.
is just crazy. Like,
Yep.
let me do my aerobics and my cardio and my step classes. Like, leave me alone. I just want to dance and have fun. Um, but a workout had never left me so sore, and in places that I didn't know I had muscles. And I was like, okay, there's something really effective about this. Like there's something here. And I kept going back, and I found a gym that was more my type of community. And weirdly enough, it ended up being at my kids' school. And so I would
Cool.
drop them at school, and I would go to the CrossFit box, and I would just work out. And then I mentioned the story about Greg, meeting him at a conference. And so started working for CrossFit. And I'm not the typical CrossFit athlete. I'm 5'10", like I'm so tall, and most CrossFit athletes are like 5'2", and
Sure,
so
sure.
burpees for me take like double the time that it does for somebody else. I'm like a
Or
baby
the
sloth when I
the
do that.
pull-ups, you need the higher rig so you don't drag your feet on the ground.
Yeah, my feet hang on the floor. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not pretty. I have like this shoulder injury from water polo. Like I can't even do much of like the
yeah.
hanging stuff. I'm not going to do a handstand push-up. But what I do love about it is this like feeling of community and camaraderie, and that I can do a really intense workout in an hour in a short period of time. And I've literally fallen in love with lifting weights. Like I absolutely love it. I crave it. I've been away for a week. I haven't worked out. Like I've eaten badly. It's just like one of those things where, yeah, I should have made time, but I didn't.
Mm, mm,
It didn't work out. So I
yeah.
need to just get back on track, right? But I'm like, oh, I just want to go do some deadlifts. I've got them. I've got like a
Yeah,
barbell here in the house. I'm just
yeah,
gonna go do it later.
yeah.
But anyway, CrossFit really, what I love about CrossFit is that it reminds me a lot of like the 12-step community. But just without the cigarettes and the coffee. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's where I belong. It's where I have found a community who will root for me when I can't root for myself, who will call me up and be like, hey, why weren't you at the 4 p.m. class? Like, what's
Yeah,
going on? Are you okay?
yeah,
Who will constantly push me to be better, who will constantly push me to
yeah,
do difficult things, because CrossFit movements are complex at times. And,
yeah,
it's difficult. And when I achieve those small wins in the gym, that translates into like wins in my life.
yep.
I've realized that I'm capable of so much more than I give myself credit for, because I am able to do a 200-pound deadlift, right? And it's like, okay, well, if I can do a 200-pound deadlift, like I can face that dude in the boardroom as the CEO. Like I
Yes,
can do
yes,
all
yes,
these things
yes,
that I didn't think I was capable of. And so,
yes.
um, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't need anyone to help me move furniture or fix the toilet. I got it. But you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
so much
yeah,
more to me than just an exercise program. It's a way of life
yeah.
that has empowered me in every other area.
No, same, same.
Do you do CrossFit?
Yeah. Since I mean, the beginning of it was really kind of when I was getting out of the military. I got out in 2007, and we were really kind of writing the origins for the CrossFit programming in Marine Corps at the time. And right when I was getting out was when it really first started to kick off, in the first games I think came right then in 2008 or 2009.
Yeah.
But I first started doing it right at the beginning, and it was fun for me. And then it was right before, I guess, it became really cultish. And then once it got cultish, I became actually disinterested, similar to what you were kind of touching on. Like, this is too intense. The community is not what I like. And it was so all about the workouts at the time. And, I went to one of the, like an after events function or after workout function one day with everybody, and everybody had brand gear on, like clothes, like of the different companies. So I was like, oh, dude, like, and then everybody else was talking about working out. And I was like, we literally just came from that. Like, we can talk about just us, and we don't have to wear the clothes of like the gear companies and stuff like that as we're out casually. Like, you don't need help telling anybody you work out. Like, I can tell you work out. Me thinking that about each other, and that was my same reason for not wearing wearables anymore. Like, I don't need help telling people that I work out. So like, I don't want to be like, hey, in case you didn't see, here's my 5 wearables, and here's all my data and biometric trackers. Like, I'm all about the data and the biometrics. I love it. I think it's very beneficial, but I'm not going to wear it. So if you can, anybody out there, if you can embed one in me, I'm all about it, but I'm just not going to be your brand rep on my wrist for it. But yeah, I love the workouts. I love the workouts. It's challenging. It's to me, it's truly working out like an athlete. I competed in bodybuilding and did fitness modeling and all that for years too. And yeah, I can definitely relate about feeling shitty and showing up for shoots and having to be on all the time, but you're miserable because you're depleted of life. But I saw a lot of fallacy in that, because here you are, same as me. We're showing up for these shoots. You're supposed to be this beacon of fashion or health or a testament to a movement or just, you know, a way of life or a lifestyle. Yet inside you feel miserable. You know you're not in shape. You know you're hungover, maybe. You know you just did fucking key bumps in the bathroom to lean out a little bit more. Um, but yet you're being judged and evaluated and valued as this spokesperson. All of a sudden you're a brand representative. You represent a movement even, and people are like, oh my God, she's amazing. Like, look how great she's. Like, she's fucking miserable and she can't do shit physically. So don't ask her to run faster than she can think.
Yeah.
Wow, he looks great on that stage, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, that dude would drown in a fucking pool if he had to tread water for more than 2 minutes. So no. And again, hats off to you for being a water polo player, because that's definitely a place that I like to be, is in the water. And that is where most athletes do not ever want to be. And so to me, kind of incorporating those different movements that CrossFit does, where it makes you kind of be this more all around competitor and athlete, as opposed to being a single modality expert. Yeah, it's challenging. And it's kind of back to what you talked about, the suffering and the difficulties and the fear. Like, yeah, I fucking hate a lot of those gymnastics because I suck at them.
Yeah.
But damn sure I'm going to try, you know? And then when I see the WOD for the day on the board, I'm like, oh, fucking toes to bar plus muscle ups plus handstand push-ups. I'm like, I'm fucked, you know? Or like hand walks. I'm like, I'm fucked. But I'm going to try it, you know, like I'm going to go through it. And there's going to be people that are better than me. And like my little competitor is going to be inside steaming because he's not as good as these other people because they're so good. But then it'll be a day that it's like, you know, a body weight Metcon. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like it's my time to shine. Yeah, I got this. You know, where it's push-ups and burpees and like a Cindy kind of thing. I'm like, oh, awesome. This is what I'm built for. Great. But yes, the parallels there that you can take into life are uncanny. And they are absolutely pure and perfect. People say, well, Jake, why do you always bring it back to a workout or like a diet? It's like, because if you can have the fucking self-discipline to adhere to a diet, you can fucking do anything. Straight up.
I agree.
You know, it's one of the most challenging things you could ever do, because as a human being, the single most effective thing we can do in regards to our health is controlling what we put into our mouths.
That's what?
Workouts are, sorry, I've got a considerable amount of construction going on in my condo right now. The single most effective thing that we can do as human beings in regards to our health is controlling what we put into our mouths.
Yeah.
People hear that and they think, well, that's just about consumption. It's a lot about omission too, and prioritization. What doesn't go in there? What I make sure goes in there. And what I make sure it fucking stays away, far away from there. Yeah. Because you and I both know plenty of people that probably work out lots, twice a day, but they don't look like they do. Why is that? They're not losing the battle in the gym. It's not because they're not doing enough rocks or they're not masticating enough burpees. It's like, no, why don't you look like you work out twice a day? Because you don't live like that the rest of the hours out there.
You're not sleeping. You're not prioritizing stress.
You're not living what you're trying to exude, and you think you're chasing that treadmill demon. It's like, you know, it's the same thing as chasing the bottom of a bag. It's never going to be the white line you want it to be. It's always going to be this next best thing of unfulfillment. But yes, the parallels there can absolutely come into life. And that's what I challenge people to do, and why I encourage people to test themselves that way, because it's a great way to challenge yourself first thing in the morning, especially, and then be able to carry that on into the day, whether it's like you said in the boardroom or up against any type of foe or unsurmountable or uncertain or otherwise adversary that you're not going to know what's coming. But if you've got it already in the tank, God, I went through hell this morning and I was scared and I wasn't good at it and I got my ass kicked and negative.
But I did it.
But I did it. Courage, 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 courage. You're wearing those like badges now. Mm-hmm. You've got this like armor on to go into the day with, where like, yeah, this isn't that bad. We got to do that for 5 hours, or we got to sit in this meeting. Just look at those medals that I've got here for the day, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, and nobody can do that for you. Like, people help on the journey, right? And they coach and they support, but like the person putting in the effort and pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone is you. And no one can take that away from you. And that's priceless.
That is the warrior's path is a lonely road, in the sense that it's got to be.
Listen, have you read a book by Napoleon Hill called Conversations with the Devil? Wait, let me just check.
Outwitting the Devil. Oh yeah.
What? the heck?
Yeah, it's good. It's
I
good,
literally
right?
am reading it right now, and I'm like, how long ago was it written? Like 100 years ago, and it was published
Yeah,
in 2011.
yeah. I want to say it's from the 20s. I believe it's from the 20s because he's talking about meetings with Rockefeller and Warren
Yeah,
Hardy and Dale
but
Carnegie, I think. So yeah.
he's also like talks about like in the indoctrination of young minds
Oh, good.
through
What he talks about,
everything that's happening
you just
now.
erase the dates, and you're like, it's he's writing today's night whatever 1921. So like it's 2024. It's the same thing. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. You can read
Yeah,
about his recounts in the camps and him coming back to modern society and seeing I forget his phrasing of it, but basically talking about the neurotic pessimism or pessimistic neurosis that comes and captures young minds by way of like just paralysis analysis for things and feelings of entitlement. I'm like, oh my god, this is 100 years ago too, but like it seems pretty damn applicable now.
it's
It's a
insane.
good book, Outwitting the Devil. Great book. Great
It's
book.
great, all about propaganda and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone should read this book. Like, it's fantastic. It's and you know, and I think that's probably why I focus so much on fear today, because
Yeah.
it's such a big concept in the book, right? It's like this paralysis, like the devil essentially shows up as fear in our
Yeah.
lives, and if we feed that, like we're firmly in the grasps and in this trap, and like, you know, we stop working out and we stop eating healthily, and just everything goes out of it.
Yeah. There's a good biblical quote about the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing man that he didn't exist. And the only reason evil exists is because we believe in it. You know, we give evil life through
Yeah,
belief. We
yeah,
personify it through words.
yeah,
So the same way that we can give it to it, we can take it away just by choosing to not speak of it, choosing to not give it breath, choosing to not give it life through belief, but by acting in contrast. You know, I say that about anxiety or depression. You know, the antithesis, the kryptonite to anxiety is action. You want to lose to anxiety? Sit there and do nothing. Let it just bleed and
yep.
take you over because it
Sit in
will
your head.
definitely
Yeah,
do it. It'll
yeah,
definitely do it. Will action mitigate it? Not necessarily, but it's guaranteed to be better than doing nothing. And to
for
me,
sure.
the inkling of possibility, the iota of possibly having something better than being depressed and overrun by anxiety and just miserable and not wanting to live anymore, even an inkling of maybe outweighs an absolute zero. And I think
Totally.
that's the big thing that a lot of us don't want to realize is that I want the certainty or the surety of change, of success, of confidence, of betterment. Well, it's not sure. It's not certain. But the maybe is always going to be better than that absolute freaking zero. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, Karen, what's coming up next? Like you said, you've already got 2 events in the bag for this year. It's not even finished March. The new book republication is coming out to go on the global scale now. That's Sugar Free Revolution, right? Also, or the 8 weeks.
I don't know what it's gonna be called. I think it's definitely gonna be called sugar free something, like sugar free, freedom from sugar and carbs. I don't know. The publisher pretty much owns me and the
Yeah,
content, so who knows? I will
you got
keep
to
you
pull
posted
pull
though,
some
because
Robert Kiyosaki and get radical with the titling. You know, where it's like that doesn't make. Why would you call this Rich Dad Poor Dad? Because if I call it fucking basic frugal economics, nobody's gonna buy that shit. And he was
it's
right.
so unsexy.
Yeah, yeah. But Rich Dad Poor Dad, you're like, that's kind of neat.
Oh, that's amazing. So I've got the book coming out. I'm going to be doing an event in Palm Springs, November 3rd to the 5th. I'm not 100% sure what that looks like, but it's going to be fun. You know, this whole mission of mine to make health sexy and fun, because obviously all I do the whole day is dance around and have fun. Um, so I want to, like, you know what I mean, combine education, experience, so like science, like lectures by physicians and scientists, combine that with workshops where we can actually experience what they have been talking about, and also workouts. So we do every aspect of what's fun, and then we have fun, and we listen to live music. So it's this like science conference meets workouts meets festival. So like the Coachella of health and wellness.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's what I want to do.
That's
Yeah,
great. Coachella of
I know,
Health.
right? So
Yeah.
save the date and be there.
Noted.
Um,
Okay. Do
So
I
that's
have to?
happening.
Can I come in a tunic and be flown in by helicopter and on somebody else's dollar? And I'm trying to think of what other funny paradoxes I could say of being
Only if you can
somebody's.
parachute onto the roof of the hotel while doing it, which
Okay.
you probably
Okay.
can. I don't know
Okay.
where
Yeah.
in the military you
I'm like,
were,
we
but
just get a clearance for that and we'll make it happen.
perfect. Well, so Jake will be performing a
Yeah.
stunt.
Yeah.
So everyone should come and watch.
God help us. God help us. Yeah, especially the divorcees. I'm talking to all of you. Make sure the divorcees are stocked full. The divorcee pond is stocked full, and I'll bring some tax relief for everybody else.
Okay, perfect. Okay, wait. Let's hear your stats. So, okay, what do you put on dating sites? Okay, what?
Dating sites. Oh boy, this is fun.
How tall are you?
5'9", it's 175 centimeter.
175. Okay. What's your age range in looking in for a partner?
Good question. 25, 35.
That's a good one. 25, 30.
If I had a hard answer, otherwise I would say above 18. Oh, infinity.
Wow. Okay.
Because I wouldn't say I'm necessarily looking for a partner either.
What are you looking for?
Open-ended. Not open-ended relationship, not open relationship. I'm just no terms, no T's and C's, no rules. I don't have any conditions.
So just day by day, take it as it comes.
Yeah, not against it, but just not. Don't have a specific singular focus. To quote Napoleon Hill, don't have a specific singular focus of partner requirements. I'm more of just an appreciator of what beauty is, and it'll take me wherever it goes.
I love that. And then send your pictures in underwear of like unfiltered, no smiling.
Nope.
Back and front side.
Yep.
Jake, and we can go through it. I'll help you.
Fair enough. I've still got my Polaroids and my the cop cards.
Oh my god, that's hysterical! I have mine as well. I found them the other day.
It's funny. I just got a thing from one of my agencies in Mexico City about a thing in Cancun in a couple of weeks. That's a maybe, and the request was, "Hey, can I submit you as an option for this?" I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I haven't
that sounds amazing.
In forever, but yeah, 4 days in Cancun. I was like, "Yeah, that could be cool,"
It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
We'll see. Well, thank you so much, Karen Thompson. It's been a pleasure to speak with you and listen. And again, and thank you for your vulnerability and for everybody and your honesty and your the truth. It's a real deal.
Well, thank you
for anybody
being so
listening.
sweet.
You can find Karen at sugarfreerevolution.com, at sugarfreerevolution on Instagram. And I'm definitely going to save the date in the calendar for November 3rd and 5th, Palm Springs. It's been too long since I've been out there anyway, so it's a good reason to go.
It was so much fun.
Cool. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. I'm Jake Thomas. Hope you enjoyed.